What's good, everybody? We made it. Welcome into Early Edge Live, the NBA edition. We're taking the show on the road for the next almost 2 weeks as your boys down here in Florida calling the Players Championship this week. Special show tomorrow. We'll have all that on social media, follow us on SportsLine, but we can't waste any time. This is all about the NBA on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So let's bring in the stars of the show. Now, live from Nashville, Tennessee, M Squared. How are you today, sir?
Doing well, Coach. Fired up for this NBA slate. Got a few plays that I really like. Locking in some DFS lineups as we speak. Just enjoying these NBA Tuesday and Thursday nights with you guys.
I love this so much. There you see the schedules. I introduced the man himself, PropStarz. Now, Alex, I've got to ask you a very, very quick question because you said you were not going to do showdowns with me anymore. What happened on the MMA? What happened on the UFC, sir?
I don't even know what happened there, Coach. I'm going to save that for another stream, another time. Just put that in the peripheral and just focus on the NBA, Coach, because this is my favorite sport to bet. I am so excited. We've got a great slate, and I'm just pumped up.
All right, let's get to it. By the way, you guys don't want to miss the morning show tomorrow. I can promise you that. So all I'm going to say, Buckets was 6-0 today, and he may or may not be getting a tattoo. All right, let's get into storylines that could affect the betting lines today. We got 2 7 o'clock games, and both of our storylines and part of the donkey are from those. So let's jump right in. And, Mike, I'm going to start with you because tonight the Suns, thank goodness, they had a really big lead. They've lost Chris Paul for several weeks, and they're also playing without Devin Booker. They continue shorthanded right here in the Sunshine State with me tonight, about 2 hours away in Orlando. Talk to me.
Yeah, it's shorthanded is definitely the theme here. Obviously, a road game for them as well always makes things a little bit more difficult. You mentioned Chris Paul and Devin Booker both still out. Now they're also without Cameron Johnson. If you watch those games, Cameron Johnson really stepped up offensively. Pretty decent usage rate, really started filling it up in terms of scoring points for them off the bench. He is unavailable to play tonight with a quad injury against the Orlando Magic. That rotation is going to become even more thin. So we're going to be focused a lot more on Cameron Payne, who has PRA props that are approaching Steph Curry level at times. Jay Crowder, Landry Shamet. It's going to be a fun slate if you like some of these players. Definitely don't carry as much name value, which sometimes presents a little opportunity.
No, I love when you say opportunity. I love that. That's a 7-10 start, by the way. If you're a SportsLine member, then you know the model has the under as a B play in that game tonight. Now, Alex, the other 7-10 game tonight, actually a 7:30 game, is the Nets and the Hornets. And who would have thought 3 months ago that this would be a very important game for both? Tell me why.
Yeah, it is indeed, Coach. You mentioned the Suns having a nice cushion. That is a luxury that these Nets do not have. They have lost 4 straight games. They are currently tied for the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference, so they are fighting for their playoff lives. Kevin Durant has been back in the lineup over the last 2 games. He has looked sensational, combining for 68 points in both games. However, that has not been enough. They have lost both of those games, that they will be back. And fitting for them, this is probably their most important game of the season against Charlotte. They have the same record. Neither of these teams want to be in the play-in game, so this is just a huge game for Brooklyn. I'm expecting a massive effort from the Nets tonight.
And it's a road game, which means that Kyrie is available. They've lost their last 2, but let's keep in mind those are 2 really good defensive teams in the Celtics and the Heat. The Hornets are not a good defensive team tonight at home. This should be a lot of fun to watch. All right, we're going to reverse things a little bit. For those of you who are brand new to the Early Edge Live in the evenings, here's what we do at the NBA. Tonight, we're going to do our donkey parlay because we got stuck the other night giving out stuff after the game had started. We're going to do our best bets, and then we'll break down every single game on the slate tonight and break it through in the next 20 to 40 minutes or so. So let's get in. And Alex, you're our donkey NBA parlay guy. While Mikey finishes up DFS, what do you got for us today on the donkey?
Yeah, I've got a donkey that has plus 675 odds.
Ooh.
Only need 5 things to happen, Coach, so I'm feeling good about this. This game has the highest projected total on tonight's slate, 242 points. I expect a ton of possessions. As we know, extra possessions equal extra opportunities. So first up, we've got Kevin Durant over 29.5 points. Montrezl Harrell over 12-plus points. He has been a great addition for Charlotte, coming off the bench sometimes, also starting for them in spots. Next up, we've got LaMelo Ball over 5.5 assists. 3+ 3-pointers from scary Terry Rozier. He averages 3.1 3-pointers on the season. And last but not least, over 30 combined points, rebounds, and assists from LaMelo Ball. Put that together, that gets you plus 675 odds, Coach.
You remember when LaMelo Ball was a sophomore and his dad sent him to another country to play? We all thought it was crazy. Look how good this dude is now. Unbelievable. All right, that's a nice little 5-way donkey going north of plus 600, so I love that. We'll repeat it if we have time. But, Mikey, let's get into our best bets right now. What do you got for us tonight?
All right, best bets. We're going to keep the first ones in the same game. We're going Cameron Payne, double-double. This is available at MGM at plus 165. Love it there. Don't love it at plus 125, which it is on some books. That is a massive difference in price between the two. Try to get north of 150 if you can. MGM is where this one is at, this number. But Cameron Payne is playing big minutes, obviously, with Devin Booker and Chris Paul out. Playing 32 to 36 minutes, massive usage rate, going to see at least 30% usage from him in this game. The points not going to be a problem. His assist prop is around 8.5. Had 8 in 2 of the games, like 15 assists in the third game. Definitely going to have the opportunity for the assists in this one, the way that these matchups should play. Both teams here, top 10 in terms of pace of play. Orlando, bottom 10 in terms of defensive efficiency. Not a great combo. It is a great combo, however, if you're looking for betting overs in terms of player props against them. That's where we got my second play. Jay Crowder over 12.5 points plus 105. You can still find the 11.5s minus 130, minus 135 if you want to lay that juice. I'll take it here at plus money. I like the spot for Jay Crowder. I mentioned in the storyline Cameron Johnson also being out. Definitely is going to shore up that rotation. Not that it was really ever in doubt for him anyway, but it's definitely going to add some much needed depth to it in case of a blowout still. I like Jay Crowder in this spot. The Magic have really struggled to defend his position. Like I said, Cameron Payne is still aggressive enough. He's definitely going to create some offense for Jay Crowder in this one. I think this number should be 13.5 still. And then finally, Kevin Durant, over 29.5. Alex mentioned the robust total of 242 in this game. 2 more teams, top 10 in pace of play. Both teams rate in the bottom 10 in terms of defensive efficiency. Great spot to attack player prop overs in this one. LaMarcus Aldridge also not going to play. He is one of these players that somehow can manage to still take usage away from KD. That's not going to happen tonight. He's not in the lineup. This prop, honestly, I know these numbers are big and become fragile at that point, but this number should be 31.5 to 32.
All right. What would you play that up to? Because I looked at this prop at a couple of different books, and it was at minus 150 and minus 145. I've got to figure out who's leaking out your plays and Alex's plays early, because I'm telling you, when they find out what it is, they juice it up. So how high would you play it?
At that point, if your book lets you, I would simply play alternative lines. I'd play 30.5 before I would lay minus 150 on it personally. Okay. That's just where I'm at on it. I'm pretty sure it's still available at some of the books at minus 120, minus 125 range. That could have changed in the last 5 minutes or so. I'm not sure on that. But I would generally, if you have alternate lines, I would prefer 30.5 at near even money than laying minus 155 if that's what you were left with.
All right. The main book that I use, because I live in a state without, just started alternate lines. I feel like a whole new universe is opening up to me with my betting abilities right now. All right, those are 3 great best bets, and 1, 2, all 3 of them start in the 7 o'clock Eastern hour, so you want to get them in. Let's not waste any more time either. PropStarz, let's come to you. What do you got?
Yep, I've got a 3-pack of props for you. First up, we've got the Kiwi, the New Zealander, Steven Adams, over 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
And what team is he on? What team is he on?
He is on the Memphis Grizzlies. He has eclipsed this total in 7 of his last 10 games while averaging 26.3 PRA over that span. He's also really enjoyed going head-to-head with Pelican center Jonas Valanciunas in their 2 previous matchups this season. Adams piled up 32 and 28 PRA while logging at least 32 minutes in both meetings. He's also been doing a lot of damage on the glass. He's been excellent. He's pulled down double-digit rebounds in 10 of the last 15 games. Also also, he's been making strides as a playmaker. He's averaging a career-high 3.4 assists per game. His previous career high was 2.3. He's handed out at least 4 assists in 10 straight games. The Pelicans also boast one of the largest starting lineups in the NBA, with both Jackson Hayes and Jonas Valanciunas standing 6'11". Brandon Ingram, Herbert Jones as well, also very big. So I expect Adams to get a ton of run tonight because he's going to be going against a very, very big lineup, and he is the only traditional center on Memphis's roster. I have him projected for 24.7 PRA tonight. I'd play this up to 22.5. I gave this out in my column earlier, so I do believe this one has moved. I'm okay with it at 22.5. If you want to be a little bit safe, you can scale down a half a unit. Next up, we've got Darius Bazley on the Oklahoma City Thunder, under 21.5 PRA. He's been held under this total in 5 of the last 7 games, averaging only 17.5 PRA this season. The Bucks are 14-point favorites, so there is some serious blowout potential in this game. Isaiah Roby is also questionable. If he plays, I'll take some minutes away from Bazley as well. Either way, this number is inflated for a guy who struggles with consistency, has a very tough matchup in a game with serious blowout potential, so I love fading Bazley tonight. Next up is Jackson Hayes, over 5.5 rebounds and assists. This one is juice, but this is a lock at this number, in my opinion. He's played at least 26 minutes in 10 of 15 games. He's been starting for the Pelicans, as I mentioned. He's cleared this in 12 of the last 15 games. Jonas Valanciunas gets into foul trouble as much as any player in the NBA, which contributes to Hayes potentially playing as the primary center quite a bit. Brandon Ingram is questionable tonight, should lead in a boost in minutes. Memphis is 6th in pace. Well, as we know, more possessions equal more opportunities. I love this spot for Hayes. If you can find this at plus money at 6.5, I'm also good with it there.
Awesome. That is a TNT game. And I also think when teams are playing on TNT or a national ESPN game, they just raise the level of their play sometimes. Look what LeBron did Saturday night on ABC. He goes for 56. So I think tonight, being on TNT and having the whole night basically to themselves nationally, I think we're going to see a really fun, emotional game. All right, those are our best bets from M Squared and PropStarz, but we take it one further. We dive deep into every single game. So let's start with the 7-10 Suns laying 6.5, 21.5. Mikey, start us off.
Let's see, having some technical difficulties there for a second. We're good. Yeah, so in this game, it's really about 2 different teams that have the offensive efficiency not as great on the one side. The offensive efficiency numbers, you have to be careful using them on the Phoenix side just because Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and then Cameron Johnson being out definitely change those numbers a lot. So be careful when you're looking at stuff like that. But for me, it's all about the pace of play. These 2 are basically playing at this pace here. I have no play on the game. I really don't want any part of it. I just think it's a perfect spot for betting some of these player props. Just a good environment on some of these lesser known names where you get to finally play overs. As we know, a lot of the time we like to look towards unders in some of these situations. This is one of those situations though, where I think we can look to play a lot of overs, which is what I'm doing here with Cameron Payne, Jay Crowder. I've seen some questions about Mikal Bridges. I don't mind Bridges. I prefer Crowder and Payne definitely to him, but I'm certainly not taking unders on Mikal Bridges in this game personally, because I do think that the opportunity will simply be there in terms of the pace of play and the really poor defensive efficiency on the Orlando side. But as far as the total, the spread on the game, I personally, this one was just totally crossed off to me, as I don't see a ton of value in this one with the Suns being on the road here in this spot and so beat up.
Alex, is this a stay away for you as well, as far as the game is concerned?
Yeah, as far as the game is concerned, I agree with this is a very depleted Suns roster. Obviously, they have tremendous depth. But yeah, as far as attacking this game is concerned, I'm only looking at props. I'm with Mike. I think some of these Phoenix guys have a lot of value at their current numbers. So yeah, I fully agree with Mike's take on this.
For those of you who are brand new to the early edge, one thing that we preach all the time, and my guys always tell you, you don't have to bet every single game just because it's on the board. It's very easy to do, but you don't have to. You don't have to. All right, let's move to game number 2. Also a 7-10 start. Cavs -3 at the Pacers. The total is 223.5. Now, the Cavs are going to be facing the foreseeable future, Alex, without their big boy inside. How big of a deal is that?
It's a big deal, but fortunately for them, Coach, they have a sensational rookie by the name of Evan Mobley, who's going to fill in at center. We saw what he did in the last game, had pulled down a season high, a career high, 17 rebounds, super active on the glass. He's going against a very small Indianapolis front court that starts O'Shea, Brissett. And yeah, I think he is going to feast tonight. This was the featured play in my column that I put out this morning for SportsLine. But yeah, I'm expecting a huge game out of Evan Mobley. This guy has looked incredible. He's been the front runner for Rookie of the Year all season. Now we get to see him playing at his actual natural position. So I'm expecting big things. On the other side, I do expect a very active backcourt from the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton has looked incredible. Malcolm Brogdon, since returning from injury, has looked great as well. And one of the more underrated stories as far as the Pacers are concerned has been the play of Buddy Hield. He's averaging close to 40 minutes a game. He's been sensational. He has just been crushing his RA, his rebounds and assist line. They keep putting this thing between 7-5 and 8-5 every night, and he's going over north of 15 in pretty much every game. So he has been really good. I'm expecting a very competitive game, divisional matchup. Can't wait to see Evan Mobley. Can't wait to see that Pacers backcourt as well.
It's funny, Alex, you bring up Buddy Hield. I turned over on Game Pass the other night for like 3 minutes, and he took 4 shots in those 3 minutes. He's not scared. Doesn't care if he's new to the team. He's going to fire. But as you mentioned, he's playing the all-around game now too, which he hasn't always done. Let's be honest. Now, Mikey, as we come back to you, I feel like because I don't watch a ton of the Cavs right now because they've been missing their all-star point guard. I like to watch the stars. But as I look at the scores, it seems like they're playing at a faster pace because of these injuries. And tonight, I'm kind of looking at the over a little bit. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's exactly where I was actually going with it here. You can find the over at 221.5. I do lean towards the over. I make this closer to 224.5. And look, having Mobley play center, I definitely think is going to increase that. And this Indiana team, it does represent a bump in pace of play for the Cavs as well. So anytime we're getting Allen out of there, we've got Mobley there. We're bumping up the pace of play just a little bit while still expecting a very competitive game, a game that's frankly going to keep the ball in some of the perimeter players' hands like Tyrese Halliburton and Malcolm Brogdon. Those are all things that I trend towards the over on. Also, three-point shooting to potentially even have to keep them in the game in this spot. So I do lean towards the over. I make it closer to 224.5. Just keep watching. I do see some action on the under at times. Not something I'm personally worried about at all. But just watch right as we get up close to tip here. You might even get below 221.5.
All right. So this would be a game that you'd want to wait instead of playing early. It all depends. But you got to monitor when you get this close to tip time. All right. Let's move to game number 3 tonight. And this is a really big game that, as we said in our storylines, we had no idea that this was going to be a big game 3 months ago. But it is now. It is now. The Nets on the road, laying 4.5 in Charlotte. The money line is minus 197, by the way. The total is 240. Mikey, let me come back to you because whenever we see that 240 anything, we learn from Alex that there's a lot more opportunities to play the under than the over. And it seems like every time I do it, it's 130 to 127. What are you seeing tonight?
Yeah, it's definitely a big total, and this one has bounced around a lot. I've seen numbers as high as 244. I've seen it as low as 238, which is pretty big swings, even though this is a big total on it. Look, the reason why you see a total this way is these teams are top 10 in pace and bottom 10 in defensive efficiency, and they also have players on the floor with Kevin Durant, LaMelo, other players that can absolutely fill it up at times and get in to these back and forth shootouts. So I would have leaned towards the under, earlier today at 242.5, 243, 244. But around the 238 to 240 number, I personally do think it's efficient, even though it's such an incredibly high number. But personally, when I run into situations like this, I'm always looking for in-game opportunities because the number is so high. And these teams play the way that they do. You can definitely see things that move away from the norm or the expectation, which is the line here, really quickly in the first half of these games.
Exactly what Mikey is talking about. Last night, Golden State, Denver, they started, and they just filled it up in the first 4 minutes. They had 23, 24 points. and the total only went up 2 points. So I bet it live right there, and it ended up being, 260, 270, something like that. But seeing that 4 minutes of pace of play really got my juices flowing. Do you foresee that same thing tonight?
I do. And I think that the other thing that it kind of comes into question a little bit too is, do we extend Kevin Durant's minutes? Because that definitely has an impact on totals as well. And you have to start looking at things like that when you get into the situation. We didn't really expect the Nets to be in must-win territory, but after dropping the last two, this is a game that they really want to win. Like, they really need to win this game. With Aldridge out in the usage and the scoring that he represents in that second unit, they're going to have to look to him, or we should be looking at guys like Seth Curry's player props potentially in that second unit. But I do think it's a spot where it can totally shoot out. And, I'm already on the Kevin Durant over on the points. I think we see him push to the limits tonight on the minutes front, as long as they're not blowing out the Hornets.
So, Alex, let me come to you. With that being said, I know we would never normally give out a minus 195, but the fact that they need this win, the fact that Kyrie can play, the fact that Kevin Durant, this is like his third or fourth game back now, he should have his legs. I don't hate the money line, even though it's really, really juiced. What say you?
I don't hate the money line either, but we have to remember this is a very talented Charlotte team that's deep as well. Offensively, they rank first in possessions per game, first in pace. These guys play very well. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you have a Nets team who is adjusting to new pieces in their offense, new starters. There's a lot of things happening. Both teams have a ton to play for, so I'm expecting a competitive game. This game checks every single box that I personally look for as far as like projecting props and overs and props specifically. Mike mentioned both these teams ranking top 10 in pace, bottom 10 in defensive efficiency. That is obviously the case here. This is going to be very high scoring, potentially a huge workload usage rate for Kevin Durant. Kyrie Irving also being active tonight should help, and no LaMarcus Aldridge as well, who I believe is their third leading scorer. So yeah, I just expect a ton of usage out of those guys. And as far as Charlotte is concerned, these guys are very deep, very talented, lots of very versatile offensive players. I'm just waiting for Charlotte to finally sort of unleash LaMelo. He's only had 30 minutes in the last two games. Doesn't make sense to me. Give this guy more run. He's absolutely sensational. Hopefully he plays 34 to 36 minutes tonight. Hopefully we see the high scoring game that we're all expecting.
This just feels like, to me, just sprinkle a little bit on the over and just enjoy the game. That's what it feels like to me. Not a whole lot, just something to be interested. All right, this next game, 7:30 start time. It's the TNT game we already talked about. The Pelicans, before the last couple of games, they've been playing dynamite basketball. Now, starting to have a little bit of issue. They're traveling to Memphis. The Grizzlies are laying 6.5. The total sitting on 230.5. These are two other teams, Alex, that play at a high pace. But Memphis is starting to separate themselves into that group right above the good teams, into the borderline really, really good teams. Your thought on this matchup tonight?
Yeah, this is a fascinating matchup. I can't wait to watch this game personally. Just imagine this team if Zion Williamson was playing. They look phenomenal on paper. So much talent. The addition of CJ McCollum, he's played phenomenally well. Brandon Ingram has really come on in the second half of the season. Since the All-Star break, this guy has been tremendous. We have big Valanciunas at center. Jackson Hayes, who is a very active young center, highly, highly athletic. Just thinking about Zion Williams on this roster, definitely could be a potential playoff team in the future. Brandon Ingram is questionable tonight coming into this game. I am interested to see if he's going to play. I'm not sure if that's been announced yet.
He's been ruled out tonight.
He has been ruled out. Okay, that makes sense why that number's at 6.5. I believe it was at 4 earlier today. So yeah, this is a really interesting matchup. Hopefully New Orleans can stay competitive. I'm really interested to see Ja Morant. Obviously, he has been just absolutely tremendous, as hot as any player in the NBA right now, but this should still be a good matchup, in my opinion, even sans Brandon Ingram.
And Mikey, Memphis is really starting to have a good home court advantage too. This community, this city is embracing this basketball team. What do you think their ceiling is?
I mean, if they stay healthy, they definitely, that's the beauty of the NBA, right? When you play these playoff series, they can definitely win playoff games. And Ja has the ability, especially if he's got his perimeter shot on any given night. Guy has the ability to score 40, 50 points and make any playoff game competitive. So as far as their ceiling, it's very high. Both of these teams, frankly. I think both of these teams have an incredibly high ceiling if they get healthy at the right times, like Alex mentioned. As far as this game, a couple nuggets on it. We have very limited sample size, but it is one that I personally want to buy into a little bit just because it's the kind of player CJ McCollum is and has been back in Portland as well when Dame would miss games. His usage rate with Ingram off the floor does increase by another 5%, bringing it up well into the 30s. Couple that with the amount of minutes he's going to have in this game. He's going to have a big game for them to be competitive in this one. So I'm not looking to rush to the Grizzlies now at this point. I think you kind of missed it at the number at 4.5, 5 today. I think this thing closes at 8. And once it gets to 8, that's when I would potentially start to look at the Pelican side of the game. I do think that it could be a very comfortable win for Memphis. So we'll see there. It'll be a live game opportunity for me, but at this point, I really can't recommend going to grab Memphis knowing that it's going to be 7.5 or 8 here very quickly.
Alex, back to you.
Yeah, with Brandon Ingram being ruled out, I just read that Tony Snell is starting in his place. That is great news for the Jackson Hayes prop that I gave out. He is a very low usage player, doesn't really contribute much as far as the stat sheet is concerned. Could even get a boost in playing time for Jackson Hayes as well. So hopefully you lock that number in, because as soon as Ingram was announced inactive, they took down all of New Orleans props, and his number will probably come in 1 or 2 RA higher after the Ingram news. So hopefully we all got that number in at 5.5 or 6.5.
Alex, that was a very J Smooth thing to say. Hey, did you hear so-and-so is out? Yeah, it helps my pick. I love it when he does that. All right, we got 2 more games to get to. Then we're going to get the hell out of here. We got a very, very busy week, as you know. Be sure to follow us at SportsLine. Follow all my crew, because we're going to be busy. You don't want to miss any of our incredible content right here at our YouTube page. Now, 8-10 tonight. Another mismatch, at least on paper. The Bucks on the road in Oklahoma City, laying 13.5. Mike, I'm going to come to you. The total sitting on 230.5. Milwaukee, it seems like they're starting, since we turned the month to March, their mojo is coming back just a little bit. Your thoughts on what is it? It's an awful number. 13.5 is an awful number in the NBA. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an awful number in the NBA. And to make matters worse, it is, the road game for them. So I'm not touching the spread on it. I don't mind the total, and I would lean towards the under on the total, just because I think a likely scenario here is also one where you get that game out of Oklahoma City where they struggle to crack 90 points in the game kind of thing.
Yep.
So that's where I would lean towards the under, but it's one that you'd have to be watching very carefully, watching closely, maybe potentially be ready to bet the other side to potentially middle it later in the game. But other than that, I can't really get to anything there. The total, I believe, has come up on this one. I've seen it all the way up to 232 in some spots. That's when I would start to look at the under in it. But yeah, you're right. Drew Holiday. We haven't really talked about him much. What a string he is on. You go look at some of his numbers, scoring 23 plus points in every game. He's really, really been good there. Grayson Allen out for them tonight. It seems like a spot where they can casually coast and still win this game in a road environment, which is what I think that they do. Having said that, I'm not betting the Thunder plus 13.5. It's just, it's not super comfortable and not something that I need to do to try and find an edge. So I'm personally off of it. I'm not going to touch the game, but I do lean towards the under on it.
Plus, there's so many more games to watch tonight that I like to watch every game that I bet on. I don't want to watch this game. So it's very easy not to bet it. By the way, if you're a SportsLine member, you just cashed the Jacksonville Bellarmine over by 15 points. In Bellarmine, they're going to be a tournament team. They just won their conference championship just now. Also, the Maestro hit Clemson minus the 5.5, so we cashed another one at the brand. I'm telling you right now, if you're not a SportsLine member, you need to do it today. today. All right. One more. Alex, did you have anything on this game? Or is it hard? I forgot to ask you on the Bucks.
I've always got something on every game, Coach.
Give it to me, baby. Give it to you.
To talk, I'll take it. I do have a really hard time foreseeing how this Oklahoma City team is going to be competitive with the Bucks, especially if this Bucks team is motivated, which they have been. They've looked phenomenal recently, definitely making a push, peaking at the right time as we approach the playoffs, getting closer and closer. Yes, I do think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, though, how good SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been. Obviously, this is the lost season for Oklahoma City. They are building towards the future, trying to get their young guys as much run as they can, but he has looked incredible in the 5 games or so that he has been back. I thought they were going to shut this guy down for the season. That still might happen potentially with the next week or two, but in the meantime, this guy absolutely looks like potential all-star, averaging over 25 points a game. Since returning to the lineup, he has been phenomenal.
I just say one more thing I wanted to note on it too. It's always important to look at scheduling when you find some of these big spreads and teams like that. It is worth noting that the Milwaukee Bucks do play tomorrow night for their second half of a back-to-back in a much more competitive game against the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, and so if they get a big lead, they could pull those guys early. And like Mikey said, it could be like 111 to 88, something like that. And we're like, why did we touch this game? Stay away. All right. Last game on the board tonight, the late TNT game. Now, here's a great teaching point that we've already heard Mikey talk about. The other night, because I live in the LA area, I get every single home game on local TV. I bet the Clippers against the Knicks, and the Knicks blew them out, but I watched the game. And I was like, wait a second, this is a different Knicks team right now, whatever they're doing. So I bet them against the Kings last night, and they blew them out in the second half. But I wouldn't have bet it if I wouldn't watch the game against the Clippers. It pays to watch. Hashtag. So tonight, the Clippers are on the road in Golden State. The Warriors laying 6. The total sitting on 223. Alex, let's start with you.
Yeah, interested to watch this matchup. Curry, Klay Thompson, and Andrew Wiggins were all inactive in the Warriors' last game. They'll all be returning to the lineup tonight. I have to imagine this Warriors team is trying to get positioned. They had been really struggling prior to that Los Angeles game. They had lost 4 straight games. So they're definitely trying to round into form as the playoffs approach. Yeah, I'm expecting a good game from Golden State. If they're firing at all cylinders, I have a hard time seeing how the Clippers team can keep up with Golden State. So yeah, I personally like Golden State here a little bit at -6.
See, I tend to agree with you because, Mikey, when the Warriors have their complete lineup, they're a really good defensive team. 128 and lost, but if you don't watch the game or look at the box score, you don't know that those players didn't play until Alex tells you. So then they come back tonight, and the average bettor would probably say, I'm banging that over, no problem. But that may not be the play. Talk to me.
Yeah, this one is fascinating. They definitely need a win. It's 5 games in a row that they have lost. They've actually only covered twice in their last 13 games. They have not won or covered a lot of games here in this spot. I do like them, though, bouncing back at home. I think that the day off, while some of it is listed for injury reasons, it's not. It's a day off. It's a rest day, and I think that was much needed for them. I really do like Steph Curry again in this spot. Last time we were on the show together, we ended up missing by, I believe, 1 when Steph Curry played all 12 minutes of the fourth quarter without attempting a shot. He literally did not attempt 1 shot while playing 12 minutes. Just unheard of at this point in his career, really. I think the day off and the reset was actually going to be a really good thing for them. I like Steph's over. It was 24.5 -105 earlier. Not sure where it's at currently. I do lean to the PRA as well. I like the PRA because of the assist boost that he gets. You get home court scoring, but then you also get having Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins both on the floor. Definitely helps Curry's assist rate. It surges by about 4.5 to 5% when Klay Thompson is on the floor. That number on the PRA has come down to 35.5. It's routinely been 36.5, 37.5 in this exact position. So I think it's a good opportunity to invest back in Curry. As far as covering the spread and winning, I do think this is a good spot for them to win the game. They haven't been covering a lot lately, but I do think that if there was a game in this spot where Golden State comes out, wins by double digits, and reminds us that they're still a decent team, I think that this could be that spot for it.
Yeah, and the Clippers looked horrible against the Knicks a couple of nights ago. That was absolutely brutal. All right, we've got one thing left to do. We're going to do the Ja Morant Memorial First score of the game. But we've got 5 minutes before the first game starts. So what I want to do, AB, can you put the best bets full screen back up for the good people at home, please? Because they can still get all of these plays in if you want. Mikey's on Cameron playing double-double. Jay Crowder over 12.5, and Kevin Durant over 29.5. And then PropStarz is on Steven Adams over 21.5 PAR. Darius Baisley under 21.5 PAR, and then Jackson Hayes over 5.5 rebounds and assists. And you just heard the Tony Snell news and all of that going on with the Pelicans. So all of that's good news for that play as well. Okay, so we do this in football, and now we're doing it in basketball. We try to predict the first basket of the game to be scored to get into our little fictional club that for us, in our little immature world, means a whole heck of a lot. All right, so Mikey, we're not in the new basketball club. Alex is, but you and I are not. But tonight could be our night. Who are you going with?
All right, I'm going with the same guy I went with earlier this year, I believe, Jay Crowder, plus 750. Love the Phoenix Suns here in the spot, and I love Jay Crowder, especially when Chris Paul and Devin Booker are off the floor. Sees a nice little bump in usage. Love the way he can shoot from the perimeter. I'm calling a Jay Crowder made three. He
has an uncanny knack of nailing 2 or 3 early in the first quarter and then just kind of being a role player, just doing what he does. All right, Alex. Now, I'm getting a lot of voicemails, a lot of DMs. Everybody wants your number. Everybody wants to be your friend because you have the one and only golden ticket from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory to get into the club. Dare you find 2, sir?
Coach, let me just tell you that it's lonely at the top, and it's lonely in the club, being the only member. And if I've ever heard of poetic justice, this is that exactly. First member in the club. It's been awesome. I'm kicking it solo in the VIP all season long, waiting for you guys to make it. So come on, guys. What are you waiting for? I'm going Malcolm Brogdon, Indianapolis Pacers, plus 800. I could not believe I saw that. He was like the 5th player as far as the odds were concerned. So, yeah, I think this is just a great spot for Brogdon, who has been red hot since returning to the Pacers lineup. He has been shooting lights out. I like him to keep it going against the Cavs tonight.
I love that play so very much. Now, in basketball, going chalk is a little bit we don't have rules for this. In football, it's plus 1,000. But this is a lot harder than football. This is really, really hard. There's like 7, 8 games every night. So I'm going to go with chalk. I'm going to go with a guy that we talked about the entire show. I'm going to go with a guy that needs to have a huge game, and I think he is set for a 50-tater tonight, and that over 29.5, that will be the lock of the year. I'm taking KD, Kevin Durant, plus 400, first basket for the Nets tonight down there in Charlotte, North Carolina. All right, let's wrap things up so everybody can watch the games tonight. There's a whole bunch of college basketball, hockey, NBA, but I like to have my guys have the floor 20 to 30 seconds on what they're most looking forward to tonight. Mikey, start us off.
Looking forward to Suns and Magic because I have a ton of DFS exposure to the Phoenix Suns. I've got Cameron Payne double-double. I've got Jay Crowder. And then, of course, Kevin Durant. I'll be on that game. And then a late night, I'm going to watch Steph Curry. I think Steph Curry is going to put on a show tonight.
It's going to be a little weird for me because you guys know I live in California, so all these games start at 7, 4 and 7 for me. Staying up past 10 tonight? I don't know if I can do that, but we'll wait to be seen. Alex, what are you looking most forward to tonight, sir?
I'm looking forward to a shootout between Brooklyn and Charlotte. A lot of usage from Kevin Durant. I love Mike's play. I also gave out a Kevin Durant prop in my column that was released this morning. So I am all in on KD tonight. I think this is a great spot for him. Also looking forward to the Memphis Pelicans game as well. Even without Brandon Ingram, I still think the Pelicans can potentially be competitive. And yeah, just looking forward to a great night of basketball. And Coach, I will text you after 10 p.m. to make sure you are up and watching the game. Don't fall asleep on me.
Hey, man, the jet lag is real. It is absolutely real. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to tonight. A bunch of good basketball. From the morning show, we've got a late 11:30 p.m. Eastern game, Cal Poly. So from start to finish, you got stuff to bet on. Follow all my guys on social media. Follow the entire crew. You don't want to miss one single nugget to help you get that edge. All right. There's only one thing left to do, and I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these NBA Tuesday night tickets straight to the pay window. For my entire crew, I love them all. PropStarz, M Squared. I am the coach, AB on the ones and the twos. Tell all your friends, this is the place you want to be for March Madness. And if you didn't know, if you're a SportsLine member, you can get Alex's articles early and get the numbers that he gives out. It's $10 a month. I can't do any better than that. All right? Tell all your friends about the early edge. Good luck. See you tomorrow.